Hello, thank you for tuning in to episode 1 of Ben the Boat Painter, latest in a long esteemed line of alliterative tradespeople. We all know Bob the Builder, of course. Postman Pat, my personal favourite. Actually, it's not that long a line, is it? Who else is there? Thomas the Tank Engine? Not really a tradesperson, is he? Not really a person, come to think of it. But we need not worry about them for now, because this video series is all about boat painting, and we are going to follow the process of painting a 48-foot narrowboat, as we see here. This is Tramper Waters. As you can see, it probably doesn't desperately need painting, but this is going to be something of an artistic project, really. We're going to go for some nice bright colours, quite a hopefully spectacular look, lots of nice artwork on it. It's also a good idea to paint boats really before they desperately need it, because I mean the end result is going to hopefully be nothing short of spectacular, and it's going to be a bit easier on us as well. We don't need to do as much rust treatment or put in as much elbow grease. And the video series is not going to be just a bog standard tutorial about how to paint boats, although if you would like to learn how to paint a boat, you will certainly do so by watching these videos. We're also going to have a little look around us as well at the countryside. We're in a very nice place, look. There we go. Lovely. And actually, look, there's as I speak, there is a mayfly on the side of the boat there. Now, can we see that? Hope you can see that. There's a boat there. Very nice. So yeah, we're just going to have a little look around us. So you can just slow down and have a look. You can see all kinds of things, really. And yeah, we're going to have a bit of explore around as well while we do it. Now, as we are approaching the front of the boat here, I'm just going to push the boat out, literally, and we can have a better look at the boat. We will also see that there is a second boat alongside us, which also needs painting. I'm going to give it a big push now. Here we go. Okay. Now, there we are. You can also see another narrowboat. It's another 48-foot narrowboat, actually, called Scarlet. Belongs to my beautiful partner, and I think we have sort of achieved the optimum domestic setup in that we have a detachable home, which has become the envy of some of my friends, my married friends. And yeah, it's a very nice way of living, actually, yeah. So there you can see Scarlet and Tramper Waters side by side. Now, Scarlet's a bit different to Tramper Waters. That really does need painting. We're not going to go crazy with the artwork. It's going to be quite a simple colour scheme, but that paint project is going to be more of a practical concern, because if I don't paint it soon, the rust is going to kind of get out of control, to be honest. So it really does need a paint. We're going to have a little look at that in more detail in a minute. And yeah, I think I'm going to have to put the camera... Oh, hang on a minute. There's a heron over there. Oh, no, it's flown off now. Well, there you go. See a lot of nice things on the canal. Very nice place to live. And as we move north, I think we're going to find the scenery is going to get even nicer. So I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you, actually. It's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't been on the River Stork for a number of years, actually. So I'm very much looking forward to that. We're also going to go on some adventures in the rowing boat, the trusty rowing boat. As you can see, covered in paint splats over the many years of boat painting. Trusty thing, had it for about 15 years. Needs a bit of a refurb, so we might look at doing that as well. So there are the two boats. It's July at the moment, just at the beginning of July, so we might not quite have time to finish both of them, but we're definitely going to finish Tramper Waters, and I'm going to prioritise the most important jobs on Scarlet. So I think a good idea would be to go back down to the boats and have a little closer look, perhaps at the front of Tramper Waters. We'll look at the roof of Scarlet, and we will look at the back of Scarlet as well, because that does need painting. So rather than try and row back to the boats and hold the camera, I think I'm just going to meet you back at the boat in a few seconds, and we'll have a little look at them. See you in a bit. Okay, so here we are on the front of Tramper Waters. We did mention that this boat is not in desperate need of painting, but there are certainly some issues that need addressing quite urgently on the front area here. First of all, we have on the wooden framework of the crash, we have, you can see that the paint is just peeling off very easily there. That is not good at all. We do not like that. I think the reason for that is that the wood has not been primed properly before painting. It looks to me as if whoever has painted this, it's not a bad job, but it looks to me as if it's just had undercoat and then top coat on without the correct primer. The wood primer should really soak into the body of the wood, which is, it does not seem to have happened there. I'm not a huge fan of painting wood, I've got to be honest. I might even strip all this paint off and oil it instead, because the oil tends to soak into the material of the wood a lot better and give it sort of a better protection against the elements. What else have we got? We can see here, I'm just going to cut to this actually, give you a proper look at it, and we can see there are 3 patches of rust, all centering around these 3 fitments. So we have the hinge for the gas blocker lid, we have this brass fitment which holds the rope and stops it rubbing up against the paintwork when we're moored up, and we've got this little steel hook from which the fender hangs on the end of this chain. But why in particular are those 3 things rusting? Well, the reason is that when you have 2 dissimilar metals coming into contact with each other, it's going to cause a chemical reaction, and that in this case is manifesting itself in rust. So we can see some white paint on these 2 areas. I think what's happened there is someone's had a little go at treating the rust and just put a single coat of metal primer on to help protect it, although that is in fair only a short-term protection. Metal primer is not in fact waterproof, it's porous and will let the water through, so the rust is going to get worse. Even though it's got primer on, we need to put the undercoat on and the top coat on to create a complete system to protect it long term. So we've got to knock this back, treat the rust, and then put the full paint system on top, primer, undercoat and top coat. And let's have a little look a bit further down, because there's another issue that wow, that's the terrapin over there. Wow, look at that. Don't see that every day. There they go, swimming off happily into the water. You do sometimes see terrapins on the canal network. I think they're not native to England, of course, not wild animals, merely pets that people have released into the wild. But they seem to thrive in this environment, so it is quite nice to see them every now and then. Anyway, back to the boat. The final thing that I want to sort out in the front area is this, and the reason is I want to put some non-slip here, because as I'm changing my gas bottles, which are kept in this locker here, and it's in the wet weather, that's going to be quite a dangerous situation, because I'm going to have a very heavy gas bottle in my arms, and I do not want to fall in and slip on the metal while I'm doing that. So a nice coarse piece of non-slip here is going to help that no end. In fact, I'm surprised there isn't any there to start off with. I think I may also put another finer piece of non-slip on this area. There's no reason why not. So just to add an extra bit of safety as well. No reason why not there. So if I sort out the non-slip, the flaky paint on the wooden crutch frame, and these rusty areas around the fitments, the front of this boat is going to look very nice. Now I think would be a good time to float around the front. This could be disastrous. I'm going to try and stand up and operate the camera. Don't laugh if I fall in. You wouldn't do that, would you? And I think, yes, now would be a good time to cut. And I'll see you on Scarlet in 1 second. Okay, so here we are on the roof of Scarlet. And out of all the areas we're going to be... Coots, Jesus, they're so noisy. Anyway, out of all the areas we're going to be looking at, the roof of Scarlet is going to be the most challenging. Certainly going to require the most elbow grease. And there's a few issues we need to address. Let's have a look. First of all, I hope you can see, we have these kind of white areas here. So some of the grey top coat is coming off and revealing these white patches underneath. And what I believe has happened there is, previous to being painted grey, this boat had a white roof and it had a non-slip texture over the entire area. And it appears that someone has painted directly onto the non-slip area, which is possible, but it's not necessarily a brilliant idea. If you're going to do it, you do have to make sure you do it very well, because on the texture of the non-slip, it's kind of like sandpaper, you're going to get dirt accumulating in the texture, and it can be very difficult to clean before you paint it. It's also difficult to prep, so you can't kind of sand it down quite as effectively as if it was just smooth paint. So that's causing the paint to not adhere properly, and it's coming off in these little patches. It's not desperately bad though, to be fair. And the rest of the paint seems like it's stuck okay. So we're just going to focus our attention on the areas that have been exposed and prep the rest of it normally. Just going to make sure that this is cleaned really, really thoroughly before we put any paint on. And yeah, let's move down a little bit. Oh dear, there's some other more desperate looking areas here. Let's have a look at what's happening there. And oh, wait a minute, there's a red admiral butterfly over there. Now, flying off there, very nice. And let's have a look at this. So this, I am rather, oh dear, I do not know. Well, I think actually what this is, it appears someone has put reasonably, oh, there's another one here, look. This is, yeah, there's paint flaking off like that. Let's see, coming off. So that's paint coming off, but this bit perhaps looks like an area of filler. So there may have been almost like a kind of a shallow dent in the roof here, and someone has put perhaps like a very shallow area of filler on top of it, just to stop water kind of puddling in that area. So you don't want water accumulating long term on the roof, and putting filler over it is going to flatten the surface, and the water is just going to run off as it would on the rest of the roof. The problem with that is that filler is not going to last forever, and we're going to get, I mean, I'm not looking forward to sorting this out. Am I going to put any filler back on? I may not. We'll see how bad it is when we take this off, but not looking forward to that bit particularly, but we're going to sort it out, of course. We also have, I mean, I did this, there was some holes. I don't know what was attached to this piece of the roof. I've just put some epoxy putty just to block the holes off, to stop the water getting in under the roof. So we're going to do a bit more of a finesse job on that, sand it down properly and make it look nice and smooth, so we can't see that there was anything here, before. And if we go down to the other end of the roof, most of the rust is on the other end. And we'll have a look at why, of course. And oh look, there's that small heath butterfly there. There you go, lovely. Okay, so we're at the other end of the roof now, and as you can see, it is by far the rustiest part of the roof. There you go, look at that, not very nice at all. So why is that? Why is it rusty here? Well, the reason is, in the winter time, we put all our sacks of coal on this area, and being as heavy as they are, 25 kilograms, we can't just pick them up and plop them down willy-nilly, and invariably we end up dragging it across the paint to some extent, and creating these ugly rust patches, which we're going to sort out. And even if a pinprick of bare metal is exposed, it is eventually going to spread into these much larger ugly areas. So we're going to have a look at how to treat them and make them look brand new again. And that, I think, is the issues we need to look at on the roof. And we're nearly at the back deck now, so let's go down and have a look at that, because there are some issues we really need to sort out there too. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so here we are on the back deck of Scarlet, and there are some issues to sort out. Firstly, we've had some welding work done here over the past year. We've had a new tiller bearing installed, which is this silver piece here. And in order to do that, the paint around the area has been stripped back to bare metal so that the welding can take place. Very nice job, actually. And after the welding's been completed, we've had a single coat of red oxide primer just to give the newly welded area a bit of short-term protection. But the time has come to give it the long-term protection it needs, so we're going to scrape back any kind of semi-rusty areas that the primer has failed to protect and give it the full paint system. Rust treatment, primer, undercoat and top coat. Adjacent to that, we have had an inspection hatch cut into the top of the fuel tank. Now this is the main body of the boat, but it actually serves as the top of the fuel tank. And the reason we've had this hatch installed is because we were experiencing water mixed in with our diesel. So that's happened because, particularly in the winter time, we perhaps have neglected to keep the fuel tank as full as possible. So if the fuel tank gets empty or starts to get empty, condensation will form inside the fuel tank and the water will mix with the diesel, and that's going to contaminate our fuel lines on our engine, and ultimately the engine's going to cut out, and well, the fuel tank's going to be full of sludge as well, which is not good. And the advantage of having this inspection hatch installed is that if it ever happens again years down the line, we'll be able to just unscrew this, get into the tank and clean this out, remove any contaminated fuel, and we can sort the issue out ourselves. This hatch was installed by a very good company actually, Sub-Zero, and they helped us take the dirty fuel out of the tank, clean the fuel through a series of filters, and then we could put the old contaminated fuel, well, the old fuel that used to be contaminated, back into the tank, and everything runs smoothly now. So that's good. But again, it was all ground down to bare metal in order to install a hatch, and we just had the single coat of red oxide primer to give it the short-term protection. So we need to sort that out in the same way as that. Finally, we have this area here. Now this is the main entrance of the boat, so we're in and out of here every day. And of course in the rain it gets slippery, and I want to put non-slip on here as we looked at the front there as well. So we need to do that as well. So that is the back deck, and we're going to make this look beautiful. Brand new. So here we are. Got a good look at the fleet here. 3 boats, Scarlet, Tramper Waters, and my rowing boat, which actually doesn't have a name. I think by the end of the series we might name it. We're going to hopefully do a refurb on that rowing boat because it's seen better days, you know. And I think it's high time I did something about it. I've had it nearly 15 years. It's a lot older than that as well. So yeah, we have 3 boats to sort out. Does that make me an admiral? I think you're an admiral if you've got 3 boats. Anyway, I'll have to look that one up later. But I think now's a good time just to explain my sort of philosophy of how I paint the boat. You can see we're in quite a not quite idyllic, but it's a very nice area this. And what I try and do is to paint the boat without using any power tools, without making any noise. Some people may scoff and say that's not possible, but have a look at these. Now, all of those were done without a single volt of electricity. It might take a bit longer, perhaps, maybe a bit more effort. That's not such a bad thing, is it? And the main thing is, I'm not going to disturb anyone as I'm doing it. So, picture the scene. You bought your narrow boat, you moved it into a beautiful, green, peaceful area such as this. You've got some guests around, poured yourself a glass of wine, and then what happens? Your next door neighbour starts using an angle grinder on their roof all day, every day, for a week. That's not very good, is it? I do not want to be that person. Having said that, I did used to be that person, I'll be honest. So I have since learned the error of my ways though. And I just think boating should be a pleasurable experience, you know. I understand that it's, in some cases, this is true actually, but there is a strong case for grinding this down back to bare metal with some kind of rotary tool, power, like a angle grinder, turkey blaster.
is another good one. It's various other tools you can use. The one thing they've got in common, though, is they make a lot of noise. And that's one thing I really want to avoid. I want to have a nice, peaceful time. I want your viewing experience to be nice and relaxing. You don't really want to sit having your cup of tea or your dinner with me kind of grinding a bit of metal with an angle grinder, do you? That's not very nice to watch. And yeah, it's actually easier than you might think. I mean, I wondered whether it would be possible. The reason I stopped using power tools is because I actually damaged my hearing by using power tools so much. And I thought I was going to have to give up boat painting. But then I thought, well, hang on a minute, I can try. Why don't I just try doing a boat without any power tools? And it's a lot easier than you might think. If you think what humans have achieved over the years, they built the pyramids, Stonehenge, Spanish galleons, they didn't have any power tools, did they? So I think I can paint a boat without a power tool if they can do that. And yes, these it's a lot safer as well, really, because angle grinders are pretty nasty things. As well as the noise, there is as when you're using it, you're often putting quite a lot of pressure on the tool as you're stripping the paint, and then all that vibration is being transmitted up your body. And I've had some horrible injuries actually from using power tools. Like, I remember there was one time I basically lost the use of my right arm for a couple of weeks. I don't know what happened, but I just went, my whole right arm went weak, and I had to continue working with using just my left arm. That was fun. And also there's no need for a generator. So that's a big piece of equipment that is I don't need anymore. Expensive piece of equipment. There's no fuel required to power the tools as well. Again, that's another saving. So perhaps the time you lose in it taking a longer time, you actually gain the cost of not needing the fuel or the generator to power the tools, as well as the tools themselves, of course. So yeah, I think it's a good philosophy, and it's just a lot better for everyone else. I mean, because the waterways are a lot busier now. So when I started boat painting 10 years ago, I quite enjoyed using the power tools. I quite enjoyed making a lot of noise, to be honest. But most of the time I would try and go under a bridge or into a lesser residential area, so I'm not really disturbing anyone. But now the waterways have become quite busy, so the waterways themselves have become a residential area. So yeah, I think it's just a good philosophy to stick to. Zen Ben, the boat painter. Okay, we've got something quite unusual here. We have a wood duck, which you do not see in England very often. They're not native to England. You usually find them in America, actually. This is even more unusual in that the colouring of it is almost unique, because they're usually dark green. There you go, there he is. I've called him Woody, creatively named. Yes, the colouring is very unusual, because usually they're dark green. This one is in fact grey. I'll get you a better view of it in a minute. There he goes. You see, not bad, huh? Not bad. You can see some very unusual things on the canal. Let's see if we can get him a bit closer. Come on. Come on. So I think now will be the perfect time to start thinking about winding down and signing off from our first episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. Plenty more episodes to come. We're going to be painting these two boats for some time, believe me. It's not a quick job. And even when we finish the basic colour schemes, on Tramper Waters, I have something very spectacular planned. We're going to do a full-on nature mural on both sides. And you know what? I think Woody the Wood Duck here is going to feature quite prominently. It'd be rude not to include him, wouldn't he? I mean, look at him. Bit of a show off though, isn't he? But who wouldn't be if he looked like him? Very handsome chap. So anyway, just before we say goodbye, it's worth mentioning that I'd love it if you could connect with the channel in any way, subscribing, liking, commenting in particular. I'll endeavour to respond to any comment you want to leave, and just leaves me to say, I hope to see you all back at the boat in our next episode.